Hey there, everybody. Welcome. This is our review of The Blacklist, Season 8, Episode 14. I think it's pretty fair to say there's a lot to dive into here. There's a lot to unpack. We have new theories, new information. Yeah. Jess has come up with a real chin scratcher. I think there's some good stuff to dive into here. So that is your tease. We're not even, we don't even need to spend a lot of time on the build-up here. Let's just say...
No, there's so much to talk about.
I know, and I think there's going to be a lot of reactions. I am looking forward to the comments on this episode. But before we go any further, if you do enjoy this discussion, subscribe, because, we've got a lot of Blacklist discussion, a lot of conversation still to have. I mean, there was even a lot to unpack in that promo. We'll talk about that a little bit down the line.
For sure. And follow us over on Instagram, which is Matt and Jess TV.
Okay,
let's start with my theory. I'm rolling up my sleeves here. And I'm very curious to see if there's anybody else out there that maybe thought this too. Yeah. So let's talk Mrs. French. So originally I was kind of like, okay, one of Katarina's, associates, whatever, was her husband. And now all of a sudden there's this older blonde lady who is also seemingly really caring very much about Liz, caring much about Agnes. I think that Mrs. French is the real Katarina. And the thing is I think that the other Katarina that we saw get killed is dead. I think she's gone.
Yeah.
But I think she's been kind of like a fake Katarina. I think that this is actually Liz's mother. And then that would then play into sort of a further idea, which is that, I think there's a lot of us out there that want to see Liz and Reddington working together again and on the same team again. If he didn't actually kill her mother and killed sort of this imposter Katarina, and Mrs. French is actually Katarina, there will be more story to this, and that will then be something that maybe Liz can move past, because then she's still alive.
I really like this theory a lot, and the real thing is that I have wanted to believe in the idea that Reddington didn't kill the real Katarina. Just because, obviously, if he killed the real Katarina, he would know that his relationship with Liz was done forever. And I think he still holds on to some sort of hope that they can figure this out. And that's why I don't know how Reddington thinks Liz is going to find this out so that she will eventually come back to him.
Well, that's why I'm kind of wondering. I mean, they had that talk at the couch where it was, she was giving Liz a tea and they were chatting a little bit. And I was just like, oh, this feels very like family. Like there is something that is just very familiar between them, even though they don't really know each other. It feels very natural. I think there's something there. This is where then the next part of it comes in that starts to confuse me, because a lot of what, Matt and I were kind of thinking was that there was this idea that Reddington knows the real Katarina is still alive and that he's somehow protecting her or has some sort of contact with her. But this person, Mrs. French / maybe Katarina, is looking to sort of get her hands on the man that killed her husband. And if that's Reddington, then like that theory is starting to kind of fall apart.
Yeah, like there is an unraveling here. Like there is a lot of major problems that still do need to be resolved. And I think one of the big ones to me is still, of course, why in the world would anyone pretend to be Katarina Rostova? Like, I still don't really know that part of it.
It might be financial.
It could be.
We don't know what the conversation would be between these two women. Maybe they're sisters. Maybe there's some other relationship. Maybe it is financial. Maybe she owes Mrs. French for whatever reason, or the real Katarina. I don't know.
I will say this, though. There are two things that have come into my head since we just started this conversation.
All right, let's have a lay it on.
All right. Number one, and this one, I didn't think of it earlier, like a little ways ago, maybe a week and a half ago, NBC released photos for this episode. Mm-hmm. And they explicitly released a photo of Mrs. French. And this is a character we didn't know. And I was like, okay, they just, I guess, wanted to put a photo of a guest star in there. Maybe, this is full tinfoil hat here. Maybe this was a clue that, this Mrs. French character is important and we want you to know she's there. So we're releasing I don't know how much NBC's promo department knows. I don't know if that's something that could be anything.
I don't know, but I mean, you're right. It seems like such a small sort of role in the way that, it seemed like she was brought in just to take care of Agnes, so that it's not a situation where it's like, where is her daughter again, sort of thing. Okay, we know she's with Mrs. French.
Maybe Mr. French is somewhat of a construct in his own right here, where what we know, going a little bit back here to Belgrade, is Pyotr, a great love of Katarina's, went kablooey in the past here. So maybe that is sort of a reference to the act of revenge this Katarina or Mrs. French is really seeking on Reddington, and maybe I really wish now I could go like the full, like, look at all the connected things on the corkboard.
Here's another tinfoil hat,
Yeah.
and this one may not be real of anything, but it was Mr. French that was supposed to actually meet up, and he just disappeared, and Mrs. French didn't know where he was or what was going on until the police called her. And I do it like this because we didn't see any of that. She could be like, oh, the queen just called me, like, you don't know, right? Like, this is just whatever information she's feeding Liz. But there has been the Reddington that we know is an imposter theory sort of all this time. Is it possible then that maybe Mr. French is someone who is related to Reddington, maybe a brother, something like that?
This is fun. There's like so much like Mr. and Mrs. French that we didn't know these people from anything like a week ago, and now like let us know in the comments about all this. Do you think Mrs. French is Katarina? Who is Mr. French?
Yeah, I just feel like something is really weird about this idea that was like, oh, I spoke to Mr. French, no problem. Now all of a sudden he's missing. Cops, he's dead. I'm just like, okay, something is off here. That either this is a family member of Liz's, maybe this is a family member of Reddington's, and he doesn't want to actually be seen.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Okay, now we have gone full tinfoil. Put more tinfoil on now. Goodness. Put on the tinfoil jacket because the scar has come back from the grave of, like, I don't know how long it's been since they've referenced it.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't talked about it in a long time. We all know that it's there, and, we've had the theory for a while that Liz is the archive, and some people out there in the comments have thought that the scar is where the archive actually is. And, I mean, for me, I don't know where the archive is. I don't know if it's something that Liz might have in her possession, but she doesn't know. Maybe it is in the scar. Maybe it's been implanted in her brain. But after Dom had that conversation with the Katarina we have met, saying both, Katarina and Reddington have the archive, and she was kind of like, how is that possible? Well, these are Liz's parents. That would mean both of them have it if she has it. And now the scar has come back. So much tinfoil going on today.
This is fun. Okay, here's the thing. I'm getting all like hyped up on it. I don't know if it's
This is a super deep dive, guys. I hope you're sticking around for this.
I don't know. I'm hopped up on caffeine or something. Okay, here's my theory now. Oh boy. Brace yourselves, everyone. Okay.
Please don't click off.
So we saw the box, and the box had the Scar logo on it.
Yes.
Okay, we have seen Blacklist is borderline sci-fi sometimes. Maybe this box, in order to properly activate it or open it up, Liz has to, like, put her scar on it. And it's, like, one of those sort of, like, infrared things where it sort of scans the scar, and that's the access point for it.
I like that.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing. I like it, too. It's fun. And the thing about this is that if Liz got, like, a chip or something implanted in her during the fire, which we know was a long time ago, I don't know how good the technology was back then for them to be able to pull that off. Granted, I don't know how great the technology was, too, if let's put, like, some secret infrared scan on her hand decades ago either.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I think if there are memories of the fire that Liz doesn't remember still, that are blocked out, maybe there's a situation in here where someone, like, branded her hand or did something very specific would have happened to her hand.
Yes.
I don't think they could go, like, after the fact and be like, let's now craft a box that is the same exact shape as the hand scar.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that to me was, I'm really grateful that it seems like all of us Liz's scar is the archive truthers can have our moment in the sun here.
Okay, so the other thing that I want to talk about for this episode is Liz's motivation. So before, like, you know, when we were leading up to Katarina getting killed and she saw it and then she was like, oh, I'm done with Reddington. I'm going to murder him. And she was on this sort of rampage where, you know, she pushed the button to detonate the bomb and she thought that he was going to blow up and that didn't work out. And then she tried to kill him with the car bomb and that didn't work out. And then it was sort of when she was leaving and she was on the plane with all the money, I was just kind of like, okay, so what is the motivation now? Like, you can get to Reddington whenever you want. You just have to call him and he will come to you. And you can kill him whenever you want. So if the motivation is to kill him, then why have we gone on this entire journey of, you know, these two planes almost crashing, Chemical Mary, all the torture that was going on, Neville, like, why have we gone to this extreme? And what it seems like came out of this episode is that she thought she was able to do it and she tried to do it, but when it sort of like failed, she was kind of like, okay, maybe I'm thinking about this too much. I gotta sort of back my way out of this and I will get somebody else to do this for me. That way I will still get what I want out of this, but I won't be the person to actually pull the trigger because I can't, which is how this episode seemingly ends.
I think there was a lot of good stuff in this episode. Clearly, we just talked about off-the-wall theories for 11 minutes, but this is the flaw in a lot of this to me, is that Liz was willing to almost blow up Reddington at the hospital, seemed to have no reservation to do that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Then she goes on this weird magical mystery tour where she's like away from Reddington and all this when all she could have done is just like hired a sniper to follow Reddington and just taken him out at some point on a street.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like it's a bit much to get him dead. I mean, she stole like $30 million from him. That is a full paycheck to hire somebody to just take care of this.
Yeah, like this part of it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I get the idea that, okay, Liz is bringing in Townsend. She wants to work with him. We saw that other side of sort of the Cyranoid and everything that went down there. And I guess at that point, I don't know if it is I realized I can't do this myself anymore, despite what this vision of Mr. Kaplan is telling me. I need someone else. Do I want to have some other motivation? Do I want to destroy his empire? Like, what is it?
Yeah, and that's why it was sort of like you said, she could have just hired a hitman. She's got tons of money.
Yeah.
She didn't need to uncork this genie that, you know, she cannot put back in. And he's so crazy. And she would have known that right away when he was like, here's my test, kill my sister. At that point, She should have been like, nope. And I understand this sort of, she had this vision in her head of Kaplan that was almost like giving her an excuse to do what she was doing. She was using this as a way to be like, it's okay. Mr. Kaplan would have approved, so, you know, it's going to be all right. And sort of that devil on the shoulder to be like, don't worry, you can do this. But at that point, she was already having this feeling. So why not just be like, okay, Neville, bye-bye, and I'm going to hire you. Here's my money. You go take care of this.
It's really something that could be viable here, because I think the other part of this that gets just a little bit tricky is, I mean, I'm glad they gave Liz some humanity in this episode. I know a lot of us have been critical that Liz has just been like an invincible machine over this past little while with like no flaws, no problems.
There was a little weirdness in some of it though, with the whole when the Cyranoid killed Chemical Mary and then Liz was like throwing up and getting like so upset, and I'm just like, you're an FBI agent, so you've been on the other side of stuff like this. You kill and catch bad guys. Like, that is part of who you are and trained to do. And then on top of it, you stew makered that other person. And I know, like, you know, it wasn't sort of the same situation. They were already dead, but it it takes a certain stomach to do something like this. I say this not as someone who's ever stew-makered anyone.
Thank goodness.
But I'm an ex-funeral director, so I have seen a lot. And
Yep.
it does take a lot to be able to sort of see a human body in that state or in a state like that. So if she's able to do that, and watching a Serenoid kill a person who's like one of the worst people on earth is going to make her throw up, I didn't believe it.
It's a little inconsistent. Yeah, because I mean, everything at the end of season 2, you have the Stewmaker stuff. Like, there's just so many different times where Liz has done some pretty violent things or crossed the line or whatever else. And it seems like she had an easier time running the risk. And I know she back-channeled information and all that on the planes, but still, she seemed more okay with the risk of like hundreds of innocent people dying than killing one person in Chemical Mary who designs chemical weapons that can kill all sorts of people. It was just weirdly inconsistent.
Yeah, those planes almost crashed and didn't by like seconds. Like, yeah, she back-channeled the information, but like that was very close to going completely awry. Like, it's just, there are things that are inconsistent. I wasn't a fan of that, no.
No, there were some problems here. There were some moments, too, that I was happy about. Like, I'm happy that the show, after I don't know how long, finally acknowledges that Dembe has, a family again. And that was the one part of this story that I didn't see coming, that Liz was going to stage something and get Dembe's daughter to basically put a bug on him.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
And, I'm still kind of wrestling with, okay, do I fully buy it or not? But at least it's like, okay, within the context of the story, it makes sense that Liz would do something like that and go to the daughter and try to get to, because she can't go to Reddington. Nobody's going to do that.
And I loved being able to see Mr. Kaplan back. It was great. I did like the way that they did it, where it was sort of, she was creating her in her mind to help motivate her and give her sort of the, it's okay, you can do this. And I mean, we've all missed her, so it was nice to have her back.
Yeah, well, this was a good use for her. I'm glad she's not actually back and alive. I think bringing her back from the dead after 4 seasons would have been a little bit too much.
Yeah.
This worked, but we have to get to the big boiling question now. Is Anne actually dead? I don't want it to happen.
No, she's not dead yet. I mean, we saw Reddington with her and she hit her head real bad. But I mean, is she dead? No, she was still breathing, but I think she's going to be okay. I feel like she's going to be okay. Is she going to want to continue on in this relationship after everything that's happened? I mean, I hope so. She may need a little bit of time to get through it. Yeah. And I hope that fans of this relationship, like we are, will be okay and understand that Anne is a regular person. This is a lot of information to take in at one time. And she may need a little bit of time to process it and come around. That is okay.
Red Watcher fans unite. We are here for you. Okay, I want to believe she's alive. I'm not 100% on it, but it's just like, I think if they wanted to show her die, they could have easily just shown her straight up die.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's kind of like, if we're having this sort of back and forth with Liz, should she have died? Is this something that then would finally motivate Reddington to deal with Liz the way that some people out there have felt that she needs to be dealt with? I personally don't want to see that happen. I want to see Liz and Reddington come back together again. Yeah. I don't want to see something like that happen, that if Anne dies, that Reddington's going to lose his mind and take care of whatever situation. I think that Liz is tied to this 30-year project. I think she's the archive.
I know not everybody's going to love this episode. Not everybody is the biggest Liz fan in the world, but...
No, and there wasn't a lot of, James Spader in this episode, and I know that that's what a lot of people want to see, but I think that this particular episode was very important, even though not everything really worked and not everything I bought.
Yeah.
There were some things that did really work really well.
All right, well, but let's turn this over to you guys, because we got to hear all of your thoughts, all of your theories. The Scar, Jess's Katarina theory. Where are we going? What is Liz's real endgame now? Share in the comments. And if you do like this video, subscribe for more. And if you want to support us more, check those links to the store and our Patreon.
Yep.
We have a Q&A coming there this weekend. We will see you guys here next time.